اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Just a brief reminder. Today in the khutbah we spoke about something very important, and it's something that we as Muslims we complain about. It's ethics and principles as Muslims. So one of the biggest complaints many of us we have, we don't like to go back home to live in our country. Why? Because they don't have any rules and regulations or principles. An ethic, when they describe and we define ethic, it's principles that we use to navigate through life. Right? How we make our decisions, what we determine as right or wrong, moral, immoral, correct, incorrect. And so even as Muslims, we need to maintain these principles. Right? One of the core essence of our religion is, of course, to worship Allah through our salah, our prayer, through our charity, through our obedience to Him, Hajj, pilgrimage, and so on and so forth. This is to do with the rights of Allah, but there are principles that we must uphold with fellow human beings. And we see within us as a Muslim nation in this day and age, they have been sacrificed. And I mentioned that, if we go into the principles, we really deeply dive into the Quran and really delve into the Sunnah, then there'll be so many principles that we'll have to reflect and be like, what kind of believer am I? I claim that I'm a follower of Allah, follower of the Quran. I claim that I'm a follower of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's not aligning. And so the point of it is so we can realign. And I just summarized in three levels. That if we were to summarize the Quran and the Sunnah, there are three levels of ethics that we should hold. So the first level of ethics is to do with ourselves. Before even anyone else, before even our neighbors, to do with ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ, he gives us instructions to have haya within ourselves. This is to do with ourselves, modesty. It's not to do with anyone else, not to do with another country, another person, another nation. It's to do with me. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, Al-haya'u min al-iman, wal-imanu min al-jannah. He says modesty is from Iman, and Iman is from Jannah. That if you have modesty, then you have Jannah. And usually when we think of modesty, in our minds it's, okay, you got to cover yourself, the clothing, that's it. But modesty encompasses everything. The way we behave, we talk with others, with Allah. Modesty is in everything. When we have modesty, we have everything. When we lack modesty, we lack everything. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, he gives a stark warning. He says, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحْيِ فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. When you do not have, and if you do not have haya and modesty, then do as you please, do as you wish. Meaning you will end up doing whatever. You will have no boundaries. And we see that in our society today, that people don't have boundaries. Right? We don't, right for you is wrong for someone else is right for you. And so for us, within ourselves, we must first resort to the Quran and Sunnah to get that modesty. So the first one is to have ethics within ourselves. So one example, and there's many, but one is modesty, one is, having humility, and these are to do with ourselves. Then the next level is to do with the treatment of others, the behavior towards others. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they place great emphasis in our behavior and conduct towards others. Great emphasis. For example, neighbors. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, ما زال جبريل يوصيني بالجار حتى ظننت أنه سيودثه. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Jibreel alayhi salam came down and he continuously advised me, continuously taught me the importance of neighbors, continuously gave me the importance of their treatment until I thought that they would become part of the inheritance. I thought that they would be from that group that would inherit, you know, from others, from the wealth. Of course, the prophets, they cannot give inheritance. But they were to be part of that group, imagine. And this is neighbors, not Muslim, non-Muslim, anyone, any of your neighbors. The Prophet ﷺ, he says about the youth and the adults, the old and the young, he said, you know, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا وَلَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا. Very important balance. No. A true believer, you cannot be a true believer. لَيْسَ مِنَّا, they are not completely from amongst us. They don't have complete iman. مَنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا, they don't have mercy to the youth. وَلَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا, and they don't give honor and reverence to the elders. Imagine, think, when we hear in Ramadan, when we heard a child or someone coming, and we would, you know, many of us, sometimes we go to the parent, we know, what are you doing? Astaghfirullah. And we forget that once upon a time we too had children, and, you know, we too felt that. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا. The Prophet didn't leave it at that. وَلَمْ يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرَنَا. And they have honor and reverence towards the elders. Think of our young brothers and sisters, they don't pay any attention to the elders. They'll see someone struggling and they'll walk past blindly. So this is to do with ethics with others around us. And the final one, we may do the first two. The final one, which we can really, and many of times we can overlook, is ethics in our dealings with others. Dealings with others. So now this is to do, the first word to do with the social element. Now it comes, okay, you've been given leadership, you're a manager, you're a leader, a supervisor, or you're in business with someone. How are you going to do business? Because the world tells us, and corporate life tells us, that you take, you don't need to give. You don't need to worry about who's behind the screen. You don't need to worry about your employee. You just need to worry about yourself. As long as you get your bonus, you're good. As long as you're making your profit, you're good, right? This is what the world teaches us. This is capitalism teaches us. But the Prophet ﷺ, he teaches us, and the Quran teaches us that you need to fulfill every single person's right. You're in business with someone, and if you know that he made a mistake, and you're gaining from his mistake, you need to point it out. You need to highlight it, that this is not my wealth, this is yours. This is a very important point, because many of us, we can easily cut corners like that. And I want to conclude here that, there was an occasion, and it's a very famous hadith, 3 people, they were sealed in a cave. They resorted to a cave because of severe weather. It's mentioned in Bukhari on the authority of Isha radiallahu anha. And so they thought to themselves, let's make a dua to Allah, let's make a supplication that we'll all think of one sincere action that we've done in our life. And hopefully through that sincere action, Allah will forgive us and, we'll have escape, a way out, a means out from this. So they all thought long and hard. The first person came and he thought to himself that he used to revere his parents a lot. He would not go to sleep and he would not feed his children until he fed his parents. So on one occasion he comes home with milk or some nourishment, and his parents, they fall asleep. Right, they're asleep. And his children, they're hungry, so he puts on the pan on the fire and sizzles water so that it soothes the children. And with the noise they fall asleep in expectation. And so he sits next to his parents all night with that milk until they wake up the next day. Imagine. And so I'm not saying prefer your parents over your children, but this was the action that he selected. So he made dua to Allah, oh Allah, if this action was so sincere and beloved to you, then Creator, escape. So the rock moves slightly. Then the next person comes. And he had a very beautiful cousin that he really was infatuated with. He was in love with her. And she said, okay, if you give me so and so amount of money, then we can commit zina, fornicate. So the time comes, he offers her, and she's poor, right? So she's there, but they're about to do the action, and she says, fear Allah in this situation. Fear Allah. Let's do it in the right way. Let's do nikah in the right way. So he makes the dua, oh Allah, if this action is beloved to you, then create this exit for us, escape for us. So again, the rock moves slightly. Then the third person comes, and listen to this. He's an employer, and one day he needed someone, he hires someone, employee, to do some work for him, some farming. And the person, for some reason, he doesn't take his payment. Right? He doesn't take his payment. So if it were you and I, okay, that's me, that's good, I get free work. This person, he invests that person's payment. And so one day the person comes back and he comes asking for, he said, I forgot to take my payment or so and so. And he said, this is your payment. And he sees all this flock of sheep around. And he said, that is not the payment that we agreed. You've given me much more than we agreed upon. And he said that wealth that you earn, I thought it would be right to invest for you. So I invested for you. This is all your wealth. This is not my wealth. And so imagine, this is what I mean, that the principles that we must live by should be the best principles. And this is with everyone and in all facets of our life, not just with Allah. This is what we'll do. We'll donate, we'll pray tarawih, we'll do everything. But where we're lacking as Muslims is on our principles and our ethics. So first and foremost, we start with ourselves, our morality and our humbleness. This is to do with ourselves, our ego. Then the second principle is our treatment with others. And the third is our transactions and our behaviors in, when it comes to transactions and worldly affairs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be people of principles and ethics, and give us the ethics and principles that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.